New Needle Wrestling, and the man is holding the rest of the women's division down. Robin Lundberg, Gene Cherry, Dave Sepperson. We're going to get into that AEW Dynasty. But let's first start with Becky Lynch winning the Battle Royal on Raw. There's been lots of reaction. I'm going to tell you in a second why it was the right decision, but let me hear you guys complain first.
But first of all, of course you would. Of course you would. The guy who, I know you saw the YouTube videos. Nah, did you not see it? How it was more disliked than liked? But of course, Robin, of course you want to be a contrarian and just be Mr. WWE. That's what you do here. You're on the payroll. Anyways, regardless,
I wish
giving Becky Lynch that title made absolutely no sense last night. Ever since WrestleMania, all you've been hearing from WWE is we are in a new era. This is a new era. We're not going to be doing things the same way. As soon as Rhea Ripley gets hurt, what do? You got Nia Jax there. You got Liv Morgan there. What do? You give it to Becky Lynch, someone who's already held the title 6 times. This makes absolutely no sense. You don't want to give it to Liv Morgan? Fine. Nia Jax has been built as a monster. The only person who's made Rhea Ripley look vulnerable. And the fact that you didn't give her the title last night in what would have been a great moment. Becky didn't need that moment. And you just gave it to me, WWE played it safe last night. It made no sense. Yeah, and eventually Becky's going to lose again, like we all expect her to do, because that's who she is at this point in her career. To me, they could have elevated someone, and it just made no sense. I'm not feeling it. I'm not feeling it at all.
That's my biggest thing is whenever something like this happens, it is a terrible situation where Rhea had to drop it. You could just give it to somebody that you trust and it's fine. But to me, this is a real opportunity to give someone a chance that you might not have in the past. Okay, this opportunity came. How can we elevate somebody that, needs a little bit of shine, or give someone an opportunity to see what they can do, because they are going to be a transitional champion. Liv will eventually take the title. I think we all believe that. So to me, it didn't have to be Becky. Yes, I understand story-wise, she probably makes the most sense because of the history, but you very much could have given it to someone like Natalya, who's been around forever, super trustworthy, babyface, would have gotten an incredible reaction as a surprise win. And she's someone who you could use to elevate Liv. See, you've earned this, the fans probably chanting you deserve it. You would have gotten a great moment with Becky. I don't know, it feels like
y'all are out of your minds. Becky Lynch is setting up their moment. That's the whole point. When you beat Becky Lynch,
setting up what, Robin? She just lost at WrestleMania.
I know you hate Becky Lynch, but she's one of the biggest stars in the history of the division. There's no question, that's inarguable. Sure. So when you put the title on Becky Lynch, anybody else winning it in a random battle royal on Raw means nothing. I could give you the argument for Nia. Let me finish my point. I could give the argument for Nia Jax. It definitely shouldn't have been Liv Morgan, but Becky Lynch makes the most sense because it's big time for whoever beats Bex after that. Now, all the dislikes, that's just Liv Morgan fans crying online like they always do. Liv Morgan fans cry online all the time. What you need is to set up whoever you want to give the title to a moment for them by taking it off of Becky. Whoever it was, whether it was Liv or Nia, and I think it will be Liv, like you're saying, if you just give it to Liv after she injures Rhea Ripley, it's really anticlimactic. If you give it to Becky first, everybody cries because you didn't give it to Liv, and then Liv wins at a PLE, it's a bigger moment for Liv Morgan. That is the logic behind putting it on Becky Lynch, because you can trust her, and whoever goes over her is elevated.
She just lost at WrestleMania.
So Rhea Ripley.
She just lost at WrestleMania. So to say that last night would have meant nothing, you don't think Nia Jax tossing Becky Lynch out of the ring would have meant nothing? You just called her one of the biggest stars in the history of the women's division.
Nia Jax beat Becky Lynch very recently. She beat Becky Lynch. But besides, Becky Lynch losing at WrestleMania, and then
Becky Lynch has been losing.
This argument makes no sense because Rhea Ripley got hurt. We didn't know that was going to happen.
When was the last time we expected Becky to win? What are you talking about? She's literally a transitional person. We expect her to lose. Last night made no sense. It did nothing for her career. It did absolutely nothing for her. Whereas all that fanfare, all that, oh my goodness, we're in a battle royal. You got all these women in this matchup. Nia Jax could have eliminated all those girls last night, and that would have been a better booking than the decision last night in that monster. To me, Becky Lynch, she was someone who was supposed to be taking a break. The fact that WWE had to beg her to come back in this moment just tells me how badly they built up the women's division. That's the biggest piece of this whole thing. Rhea Ripley has been dominating for so long. They didn't have anyone ready to go in case something like this happened. The fact that they had to beg Becky to come back just to save this moment. And now fans are telling you how pissed off they are about it.
Beg Becky to come back. She's on the roster.
Look at the report. She literally was supposed to take a break after WrestleMania. What are you talking about? She wasn't supposed to be back here.
Well, we don't know first of all, when you say
what do you mean? I just told you what it was.
Act like
because you don't want to do the research don't mean that it didn't.
No, just because you see something on one dirt sheet doesn't mean it's fact.
What do you mean? Well, look at the YouTube. So you can look at YouTube and completely not give an F about what the fans think about how they're unhappy.
That's a small portion.
What do you mean that's a small? It's a fact. More fans are unhappy about Becky Lynch.
No, that's not. You cannot use that as a fact.
What would help, Robin? Because you say so. What are you talking
about? Because YouTube likes or dislikes are the
YouTube likes is what got The Rock out of the main event of WrestleMania. What are you talking about?
First of all, do you realize how much bigger that was? Numbers wise, you realize that was also the crowds. If it was just the YouTube video, it wouldn't have been the same thing as the crowds actually in the arenas chanting, "We want Cody."
You just said that there's a chance that Becky could get booed out of this in the first place. And
I don't think Becky. I didn't say that.
Yes, you did. You said it's going to be even bigger when Liv beat.
Yes, it will be a bigger moment for them because they get to beat Becky Lynch.
Because people are happy because Becky is champion, not because Becky is that one. No one looks at Becky as the one anymore.
It's like beating Charlotte Flair. It's like beating Rhea Ripley.
Because no one expected Becky to win.
You have irrational hate for Becky Lynch.
Hang on, no, he doesn't.
People don't like Becky Lynch, man. That's a fact.
You hated on Becky Lynch every time we've ever talked about her.
Robin, what you said, you're right. Logically, it made sense. But just because it logically made sense doesn't mean it's the right decision. The problem that I think, and what Gene's trying to say is how I feel is, it's nothing against Becky. Becky's great. I love Becky. But the fact is, it's stale. More than anything, we've seen this. So when you have this opportunity to do something fun and different, take it.
She's the transitional champion.
I understand. But you're boring, bro. Okay. That's fine, but if you're going to do a transitional champion, why not give somebody else an opportunity to elevate themselves?
Because it hurts them. This actually elevates them
when they win. No, if you give somebody like a Chelsea Green or someone an opportunity, even if it's 2 months, 3 months, give them a chance to be on television and have some new stories for a little bit of time until you give the belt to whoever you're planning to do anyway. But you can elevate somebody else while then using
beating Chelsea Green does not elevate whomever beats Chelsea Green. Beating Becky Lynch elevates whoever beats Becky Lynch. Whether it is Chelsea Green, whether it is Liv
Morgan beats Becky Lynch, that does not put her in a new stratosphere. Liv Morgan will be in the same level that she's at right now. I just disagree.
I agree.
It makes it more satisfying.
No, it does not. Beating Becky Lynch without the title is the same as beating Becky Lynch with the title. It makes absolutely no sense. You didn't have to give Becky the belt to beat Becky Lynch for it to make an impact, Robin. That's the point you're missing this whole thing. You could have put that belt on someone and elevated.
It adds to the payoff.
Truthfully, it doesn't even matter
who payoff for Becky Lynch at this point.
The real champion is still Rhea Ripley, and everybody knows it. So until Rhea gets back, everybody is just holding the title of Rhea. So Rhea is the one you're waiting for. It doesn't matter who has the title here. Then, like these next 6 months, 8 months, whatever the timeline is for Rhea to come back, all of this is inconsequential because everybody is waiting for Rhea to return. That is when things will start mattering again. They can still have fun with this. I'm not saying it's not important, but like to say like, oh, beating this person, beating that person, people beat people all the time. That means nothing to me. It's about the stories. So for me, having a chance to give someone a new opportunity is just more entertaining than seeing what we've seen 100 times. I feel like I've watched Becky Lynch. I've watched the man. I know what she's going to do. I understand where they're going to go, and it's fine. It'll be very good. It'll be a good story, and I'll let it play out. But just because I don't enjoy this moment doesn't mean I won't enjoy the full story. But in this moment, I just thought there was a better decision. Look at the last time they had a Battle Royale winner. It was the Great Khali. Nobody saw it coming, and it was shocking. Was it the right decision? People can make that.
I don't even remember
back and forth.
No. You weren't watching back then, Robin. Don't say you don't remember. You weren't watching.
It was super fun. I remember it was SmackDown. One. In fact, I was working there when it happened, and I was like, wow, they really gave it to the Great Khali. That's crazy. Like, it was out of left field, and it really threw people for a loop. Some people hated it because they didn't like Khali's wrestling ability, which I get, but he was a monster putting him in that match, and it gave him a new opportunity, and it gave him a chance.
What happened with it? What happened with the Great Khali's career?
I mean, he was a great wrestler for them. He's like, he had the
Punjabi. He's probably going to be in the Hall of Fame, Robin. What are you talking about?
Everybody's in the Hall of Fame.
Then what do you mean what happened to his career? He was still notable.
Was not. You cannot sit here with a straight face and use him as an example.
Great Khali is one of my favorite people backstage. I can tell you guys about that man. He's hysterical. Like, yes, I understand people don't love his wrestling. He's a giant who can't really do a ton of stuff in the ring except a few chops and a few big boots. And communication and stuff was a little bit tricky, but regardless, it was still just different. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's not like he held the title for 2 years. He had it for a short period of time. They gave it to somebody else. It was fun. It was different. That's my thing, is like, you have this opportunity, use it. Just giving it to someone that we've seen do this already just feels stale.
I thought Nia had it. To me, it was Nia. You don't want to give it to Liv. You want to wait.
Nia's never held the title. That would have been cool. That would have been different.
Nia would have been dope. Nia would have been the call last night, if you ask me. That would have been great.
I could get behind Nia. That was the only other one I could have seen other than Becky. All right. What are the other standout moments for you guys, either on Raw or SmackDown from WWE this week?
Yeah. Seb, you want to go?
Yeah, for me, it's Chad Gable. I thought he was the star of Raw. It was my favorite segment. I loved him kind of tearing down the Alpha Academy, building himself up. He came off like such a jerk, but I had a smile on my face all the time. I was like, this guy is. I've always said, and I stand by it, he should have won the title at Mania. They could have easily still transitioned him as a champion and been like, I'm champion now, and now I have the biggest ego of all time, and I'm going to brush off like Alpha Academy. There's a lot of ways you could have gotten to the same point, but regardless, it was so fun. I can't wait to see him eventually turn on them. If what everyone's saying with the Creed brothers joining him eventually and having them, maybe fight Tozawa and Otis. Like, there's just a lot of fun things that are going to happen with Chad Gable, and he was awesome on the microphone. I think a lot of people that were like, oh, he's a great wrestler, but he can't carry himself on the stick. Wrong. Like, he proved last night he can hold the segment as the guy, and he did a great job. I was so impressed.
That was dope. Nah, just to piggyback off that, I thought Chad Gable was also excellent. But the thing is, on the way they've built the Intercontinental title, they found a way to make Gunther still look strong without the title and make that title kind of. Sammy's got a target on his back. We saw him get attacked by Bronson Reed last night. You see Chad Gable talking about he needs to finish his story. Just overall, that whole Intercontinental puddle right now is just fire. But if I had to pick a highlight last night, it's Drew McIntyre. To me, the best heel in WWE right now. He killed it, and it just seems like he is hit his prime, especially on the mic. Like, the man didn't even wrestle last night, and he had the best segment, just killing Sheamus on the mic. And just, to me, they need to put that title back on him ASAP if I had to make a choice. I like Damian Priest. I like Jey Uso, but right now it seems like Drew has got like the Infinity Stones right now, man. He cannot miss. He is clicking on all cylinders. So shout out to Drew McIntyre.
Drew is cooking burger after burger after burger. Chad Gable definitely needed a character switch, so I like that. But I'll go back to Friday. I consistently think SmackDown is a more entertaining show than Raw. Consistently, almost week in and week out, with a few exceptions here and there. Tiffany Stratton and her inevitable rise as the next women's champion stands out to me. And the fact that the Solo Sikoa thing is working. The Bloodline thing is working. Solo Sikoa, they've done more for him in 2 weeks than they did in 2 years. So that's what stood out to me.
I agree with you. I'm going to say the Kevin Owens stuff before you know, it was really, really good. And I thought like it just made everything feel like so real. The cars in the background, everything just had like a big time feel to it, even though it's just a random SmackDown. I actually really enjoyed that a lot. I was surprised at how much I did. I thought at first it was like, okay. But it just all worked really, really well.
And until the big dogs come back, this is all. But to your point, they're having fun with it.
Feels like a big dog to me now.
Well, here's the thing: they're having fun with it. They put a bullet in his back. They put a battery in his back.
It's just new. It's fresh. That's the thing, and that's why I say this all the time. And this is kind of one of my favorite parts of the post-Mania stuff is like Mania is amazing, and the rise and all that stuff is great. But once you get to this like next 3-4 months where like all the big stars are gone and people are recouping and healing, like you get an opportunity to really build up the next wave of stars. And like Solo getting this run is great. I love it. I'm excited for it. I agree. The Damian Priest stuff and like it's different. Like they're dissolving teams left and right. We got the draft next week, which is going to just really shake things up, which I'm actually pretty excited about, and we can talk about that at the end. But yeah, overall, like things are just fresh, and that's why I like when things are just new and like we're trying some new stuff.
Meanwhile, you had the big AEW show over the weekend, AEW Dynasty, headlined. Maybe not by it being the final match, but headlined as far as I think the attention and the reception by, it's always so hard for me to say his name, Bryan Danielson. And like I get dyslexic because I'm like Bryan Danielson, and Will Ospreay. And a few things stood out about that match to me before we get into, where it ranks and all that. But I want to give those guys credit. I did think it was a super entertaining match, bell to bell. Told a nice story inside the ring. I think the thing it was missing a little bit for me is a story as far as the characters, because I didn't really care who was going to win, and I knew who was going to win. But as far as action, it was 2 thumbs up. I think the announcing was interesting because we have heard in the past, and Sep, I know you've referenced this about AEW trying to present a more sports-based product. And I did feel like the call, like I was watching a boxing match or an MMA match, the way that it was announced. And obviously the crowd there was primed for it. But those 2 guys definitely showed out. And you can see why Will Ospreay has the reputation he does.
Yeah, that match was absolutely incredible. I mean, they put on a clinic between those ropes. And it was like, and the crowd was as hot as I've ever seen an AEW crowd. Like, they were chanting, holy
We're
shit.
not
like,
worthy.
we're not worthy. Like, but they were talking like they were literally just got in the ring. They hadn't even rung the bell yet, and the fans are going ballistic. Like, they had them in the palm of their hands from the second that match started, and it had a great build. I didn't love the ending, and we can talk about it once we get it. Gene, you can give your thoughts, but overall, yes, one of the best wrestling matches I've ever seen. The 2 of them have incredible chemistry. Will Ospreay is an amazing wrestler. Bryan Danielson, everybody.
Well, why don't you say why you didn't like the ending? Because otherwise, we can all go around and say we liked it, but I think that might take us to a good direction.
Well, I'd like to hear what Gene has to say about the overall match first.
Yeah, I saw it live, and that was dope. That was the one match I was actually interested in, man. Like, Will Ospreay, he's been doing his thing on the mic, just hyping it up. And to me, there was enough. Like, these guys have a reputation. You don't need that much. Like, when you think about it, when you think about Shawn Michaels and Undertaker, when they fought at WrestleMania, they had 2 weeks, 3 weeks to build a story, just mano a mano, who's better than who. To me, those are the type of matches I really look forward to. And to me, that was 5 stars all around, man. But just so I don't end up repeating what you guys were saying, I love the ending. I thought the ending was great. Daniel Bryan deserves an Oscar because I seriously thought like he either broke his neck, broke his shoulder, something of that nature. But to me, this gives us a reason why these guys are going to get into the ring again. Had he just beat him clean, why would these guys fight again, right? Now Daniel Bryan could go back and say, hey, you know what? You tried to end my career. Now it's personal. First, it was a matter of respect. Now I got to beat your ass real quick one more time for round 2. To me, that's why I thought they did the story the way it was. I love the ending. I thought it was what you wanted. You wanted to talk about this match afterwards, and it had to be more than just this was a great match. To me, this gives it an extra layer that we can go back to in the future.
So I would agree if I thought Will Ospreay intentionally tried to hurt him, but that was not the way the match was told. Like, they used that as oh my God, Bryan got injured, and Will Ospreay just went at him and finished it off. But to me, the ending kind of took away from the totality of the match because the match was so great, and the ending you're so focused on is Bryan actually injured? Is he not? Are we being worked? What's happening? They're I understand it's great to have the crowd in disbelief of what's actually real, what's not. But when it comes to somebody's real life health issues, I don't love bringing that into a wrestling storyline or a match because I don't want to see Bryan Danielson really ever injured. That's not entertaining to me. That sucks. What happened to him was awful. And he has a family. He has 2 kids. I don't ever want that guy to, and I know he's done it before, but I don't ever want him to not be able to do what he wants to do. And I never want him to be able to not play with his kids. Those are the things where I'm the match in itself already had me entertained and captivated. Adding that in to try and build up some extra drama to me was just unnecessary.
So I'm with Gene here. Nobody wants that. Of course, nobody wants to see him hurt. But I thought it was a good ending because it was Bryan, Daniel Bryanson going out with his sword, and in a sense, it sold the ending for me. Look, all wrestling people are feigning injury, right? And I get it. He does have a real life track record of injury and the like, but I think it gave it a little bit more gravity. Because here's one of my problems with some of the finishes to AEW matches. Everybody no-sells everything. They get hit with the biggest atomic whatevers, and then they keep kicking out.
I mean, in that match alone, they definitely got hit with some big stuff and popped up pretty quick.
So, but that's what I'm saying. So at least I felt okay, this is how he's beat. I had go into the Okada match earlier. I like Okada a lot. I like his heel character. I like his wrestling. I'm not a huge fan of his finisher because people are hitting pile drivers on the concrete, and then he's beating you with a little clothesline that doesn't even look like a Bradshaw clothesline, right? Yeah. So that's one of my issues with some of the finishes in AEW. So I thought this finish actually worked really well because Bryan Danielson looked like that move took its toll on him, and he just physically was unable to recover, which is how Ospreay got the win.
Okay, sure, but then you add into the fact what they did post match on like Twitter and all social media. They added like them in the going to the doctor's room and like Will Ospreay being like genuinely like concerned, like did I hurt this guy? And then Bryan being like get the cameras out of here. Like that stuff to me is just it's too much. You just don't need that. It's like I don't know. I understand what you guys are saying, and I agree that it definitely builds to the match and it helps add to what happened, but didn't need it. And to me, it didn't. I understand why people would like it, but to me, it just felt like too much.
Well, I guess my thing is kind of like, it's 2024 with so much information, so much breaking news happening. If you could just fool the audience, even for 30 seconds on whether or not this is some legit, if like whether someone says something or does something like, was that real? I think you've done your job because everyone thinks they're the smartest person in the room. Us wrestling fans are probably the most cocky people. We think we know everything. Yeah, that was fake. That was a work. When you can get the whole fan base, and there was a hush over the crowd when that happened, like to me, that's what makes it special. And if they can build on it, this is where AEW is going to have to really prove they can tell a story. If they can build on that and turn it into something, then then you can be in these type of conversations. Because right now, you got a moment out of it. The moment hit, like they executed. People really thought Daniel Bryan was hurt, but now what can you do from that? Because if they flop with it, then it was pointless. Then I agree with you, it was pointless.
But that's my point. So I agree because now they have to build in it. But do you really want a storyline around Bryan potentially not be able to wrestle, like using a?
Well, he's already announced that he's done full time.
Yes, they said he was going to wrestle on and off, but like if that was his final match,
if Bryan Danielson, if Bryan Danielson says, you're going to have to kill me to beat me again or something like that, I'm willing to, I'm compelled to watch these guys wrestle again. To me, that's what it is. I'm with you.
I can live with that. I'm going to watch them wrestle as many times as they want to fight because it's going to be incredible. Like what they did in the ring was legitimate art. It was unbelievable.
All right, so where does it rank? Because do you have, it's so funny, like seeing some of the, I've seen people, the greatest match ever on American soil, which is funny in a sense because top 5 ever?
Top 5 on American soil? Yes. No. Yes. On American soil, yes.
I mean, first of all, how many Japanese wrestling matches, whatever, have you watched? Like,
don't worry about it.
I've watched a lot. Tiger Mask is one of my
favorites. I'm not saying you guys haven't, but like when you say on American soil, you're placing yourself in such a nerd niche already.
I do not care. You can put me anywhere. I don't care.
It wasn't better than Roman and Cody because
I didn't say that.
Okay. Because here's the reason why, Seth, and it was great in the ring. The reason why is Roman and Cody had story and stakes.
Sure.
You cared so much about what was going to happen. You throw in the other elements that were a part of it, and it's all, the ingredients of a show.
I agree. If you're adding in all the extra things of like the story and the build and all that stuff, then yes, it is not on the same level. I agree with that. If you're talking bell to bell in-ring work, then it's one of the best matches I've ever seen. They're like I called it art because like the way they're able to counter and do these things so quickly on the fly, and I'm sure they talked about all this stuff, like still just the way you do it, it's just like when you're out there and it hits, it's magic, and they literally made magic. It was that good. But yes, is it like one of my favorite matches of all time? No, there are ones that I hold in way higher regard just because of the moments that were built up to them.
What they meant for you, like versus exactly. Okay, this was a great 30 minutes of something I watched.
When we're talking
versus what I took
one of the best. It's one of the best in-ring matches I've ever watched.
Well, this is why you got to kind of put it in 2 different categories, right? And Robbie, you'll appreciate this. It's kind of like when you're talking music, who's the better rapper versus who's the better rap artist, right? Like if you're going for just straight bars, you know what I mean? But if you're going for the song construction and all that, to me, it's 2 different categories. As far as bell-to-bell wrestling, I don't know if there's 5 matches on American soil you could say, because these guys were pulling out some
What are the matches on non-American soil that were better? Just tell me that.
I'm just saying, in my opinion, American soil, bell to bell, this is one of the greatest performances I've seen, man, in a very, very long time. As far as like storytelling and all that, no, it's not better than Cody and Roman. Nah, that was years in the making. That dates back decades. So no, I'm not gonna put in that. But as far as bell to bell, mano a mano wrestling, this is one of the greatest wrestling matches ever. So I'll just leave it at that. I'm not ranking it, but it's one of the best matches I've ever seen, bell to bell, bar for bar, I've ever seen. That was incredible.
Go ahead, Seb.
I will say the best match I've ever seen bell to bell is still Nakamura, AJ Styles at Wrestle Kingdom. That match was legitimately incredible. But this one's up there for sure.
I mean, Steamboat and Savage from WrestleMania 3. I could go back if we're just talking bell to bell without anything else.
My favorite match of all time will forever probably be Owen versus Brett at WrestleMania 10. That match.
Taker and Shawn from 25.
Taker Shawn's number one bell to bell.
I think Roman and Cody might be the best match of all time, all things considered at this point.
Nah, it's not bell to bell. There were stipulations and stuff, man. You had a bunch of shenanigans, weapons.
Yeah, but that's part of pro wrestling to me.
Yeah, I'm talking bell to bell, straight up mano match, like no rule, like straight rules, stipulations, bell to bell.
That's why Will Ospreay, I think, is such a good fit for AEW, right? Because I don't know. I mean, there's always the talk about like WWE miss or not. And look, I think with WWE's success, you can't really say anything is hurting them right now. But
right now?
Yes, I don't think you can say anything's hurting them right now.
No Seth, no Roman, no Rock. Right now,
they're still a machine. I mean, like Fanatics just came out and said their hottest property is WWE. Like WWE's objectively on a roll right now. I'm just trying to.
But listen, and WWE could do better if they had a guy like Ospreay. They could add him in. It's not like they're in trouble. Just because they don't have somebody doesn't mean they're in trouble.
But what I'm saying is, I don't know if he'd be the same, if it would be the same elevation for him in WWE as it is in AEW, where he's playing as in the radio business, they call it the P1s.
Sure.
I think Will Ospreay would be an instant star if he was in WWE right now. I think he would be facing Cody Rhodes for the championship at the next pay-per-view if he was in WWE right now. I think he's that good. He's the best wrestler in the world. Let's be real. From bell to bell, no one's better than Will Ospreay right now.
There are very few people that can do as much in the ring as him. The only one I would argue that WWE has right now who's as good in the ring bell to bell is Ricochet.
Yes, and being the best in the ring bell to bell is only one part of the equation.
He can talk.
And Will Ospreay is not as good all around as Roman Reigns or Cody Rhodes or Rhea Ripley.
He can talk better than Cody Rhodes, bro. He can talk.
Wrestling is subjective. Everybody has an opinion, so I'm never gonna sit here and say someone's better than somebody else. Everybody feels differently about something. I loved, like growing up, one of my favorite wrestlers of all time was Owen Hart. Other people loved him, but other people didn't. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's subjective. Just because you love somebody and somebody else doesn't mean they're better or worse.
I think he'd be one of the top dogs, and I do think he's better than Cody on the mic. I do think so. I think, bruv. I think the man's a monster.
Well, look, I've got little Big Ro running around in here.
I always acknowledge my tribal chief, Big Ro.
With everybody saying,
There it is.
And that'll do it for another episode of Needle Wrestling. Make sure you like and subscribe to the show and the channel. I've been linking, like you asked for, Sep, all my Instagram vids on the Instagram page, so you can check it out there too. And I think we'll be back probably later this week for another episode.